Okay, I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I have absolutely no idea how to review Shadow and Claw by Gene Wolfe. Uh, like what? I this thing is... It's... How do I explain it? Anyways, I should probably introduce myself. I'm Alex. I hope you're all having a great day, and I'm going to be reviewing Shadow and Claw. If I can. God knows if I can. I don't know if I can, I'll be honest with you. But we'll see. So one of the big reasons I chose to read Shadow and Claw, or Book of the New Sun, was because, number one, it's Christopher Rocchio's favorite author. That is the guy who wrote Sun Eater. And Sun Eater is one of my it's like top 5 favorite series of all time. And it was also an inspiration on Berserk, which is another top 5 favorite series. And so I kind of just decided, you know what? I'm going to read this. Also, Chance Dillon had it in his top 10 favorite book series, so I asked, hey, should I read The Road or Book of the New Sun? He kind of beat around the bush, of course, and so I just said, you know what? Fine. Book of the New Sun. That sounds more interesting to me right now. I don't know. I don't know if it was more interesting. It felt to me like Joe Abercrombie, but with 1,000 more layers. Of course, not the same humor. Let me be very clear out the gate. He does not have the same humor, Ghetto's humor, that is so characteristic, and it's Joe Abercrombie in Joe Abercrombie's best form. It just isn't. And I wish it was, but isn't. Then again, I wish everything had Joe Abercrombie's humor, but it doesn't, because there's only one Joe Abercrombie. But Book of the New Sun is not very difficult to read, and I know that's a bit of a hot take. The problem comes in trying to see the layers below what you've already seen. As I was reading this book, I was thinking, oh, this isn't too difficult to understand on a surface level. If I'm not trying to grab any deeper meanings, if I'm not trying to understand every single word, and if I'm not trying to understand all the relevance, all the ideas that are, this is sci-fi, this is in the future. If I'm not trying to do that, then I'm fine, perfectly fine. But knowing certain things, I thought, oh, this could be very difficult. I can imagine it. Because there's so many weird words, and I have absolutely no idea what they mean. Like, there's something that's like a Sephora, or it starts with an S, I think, and I was led to believe it's a plant, but then I realized it's probably not a plant, and that it's a weapon? So there were certain aspects that I was confused as hell on. But I also loved the use of language and the syntax throughout the novel, or throughout these novels, was brilliant, because it was phrasing things in a way that it's like, maybe I should know this, or maybe I don't know this. And it's brilliant because it makes you think you know it, but you probably don't, since the way it's described in action does not correlate to the way that it is described physically. Again, brilliant syntax. If you are a sucker for sentence structure, go read Shadow and Claw. It's brilliant. I think you could pick this thing apart for God knows how long, and I cannot wait to continue the series, but that's not the point. And I've seen from a guy named Samwise, his channel, and I need to finish those videos because they're such good videos on a ton of Christian imagery inside of Shadow and Claw. I'm not particularly religious, so I don't pick up on all this stuff. And I think that's so interesting, though. A bunch of Christian imagery in this book, and I can see it, too. There was a particular scene that I cannot remember, or that I'm not going to spoil, and I thought, oh, that feels very religious. Like, I could feel it in my soul. That kind of feels like a religious moment, but I don't know. Let me correct myself. It does not feel like a religious moment. That's such a vague and dumb statement. It feels like something that could be in a religious text. There we go. I think that makes a lot more sense. And it was very, very interesting, and I loved how Severian, the main character, had all these different relationships with people, and that his existence was based off, or the way he interacts with people feels stunted, and it feels odd and awkward, or to me it does, because he's a torturer. It's Shadow of the Torturer and Claw of the Conciliator. Those are the first two books. And I admit, I don't understand what the hell the Claw of the Conciliator is, or why the first book is called The Shadow of the Torturer. But cool! And I think that it's so interesting because I even looked up the Folio Society of these books, and I looked at the pictures, and I'm going, how the hell did you get a satellite dish from this book? There was an illustration of a satellite dish from, like, Shadow and Claw, I think, or Shadow of the Torturer, I think. And I'm going, how the hell did you get that? And I think I also saw an illustration of the first 50, or from something in the first 50 pages, and I'm going, how the hell did you get that too? What are you doing? Like, how do you get these things from these descriptions? Some people are just brilliant, okay? That's something I've come to understand and accept about reality. I'm not as smart as some people, and I'm willing to go with the flow on that. And I'll see people go, oh, look at this! There was like a satellite, and there was all this stuff, and I'm going, what? How'd you guess that? That doesn't make sense to me. You must be some crackpot genius to have figured that out. But I also have to say, I love the cover. It has that old school vibe, and I don't know why it reminds me of Berserk and Souls games, and I know this was also another inspiration for the Souls games. Shadow and Claw has such a root in some of my favorite series of all time. That is From Software. That is Berserk. That is Sun Eater. So many things, and I really don't know why I never got to it until now, because clearly it's something that I should absolutely check out. And I've heard that future things will further recontextualize these things, and I think that after I'm done with these two Gene Wolfe books, I want to either go to Book of the Long Sun, which, by the way, isn't that an interesting name? The names are awesome. I love Book of the New Sun. Isn't that such a cool name that has such religious implications in terms of Book of the New Sun? It feels like a religious text, you know? Book of the New Sun. It feels, I think it is a religious text within the books. God, I want to watch so many videos just tearing this thing apart, and I know that if I do that, I'm probably going to get spoiled on future books, so I'm just not doing it quite yet, but I will, because I can't. I'm not smart enough. I'm just not. And it's so interesting. It is difficult in a different way from something like Malazan or Wars of Light and Shadow, because the way Shadow and Claw is presented to me is, it's like a curtain. And yeah, I can take it at face value. Oh, look, the curtain's red. Isn't that cool? Isn't that neat? And then the moment I start to take a peek through, I go, what the hell's on the other side? There are a ton of corpses on the other side, I promise you that much. Corpses, maybe a couple heads dangling from the ceiling, and a couple pikes, who knows. Maybe you'll find the odd heart just lying around in that little treasure chest. decorated with a mustache, you know? It's crazy, and I think it's so brilliant. And another thing was, and I'm not going to spoil anything by saying this, it's a mild-ish spoiler, it's just formatting. The appendices are really quick and short in these books, and they're really interesting. For example, there was an appendix at the end of Shadow of the Torturer. This is an omnibus edition, by the way. And at the end of Shadow of the Torturer, it's talking about how this was translated from a dialect, from a language that does not yet exist because it's so advanced that we don't have the language to describe that. And this is a translation into English. I thought that was so cool and so interesting. And I love that there was a bit of a self-awareness from Gene Wolfe there saying, yeah, I know what I'm doing here, so hush, hush, hush. Let me do my thing, let me do my work, and then we can talk about it later. And he also had another appendix at the very end of Claw of the Conciliator, and I can't remember what it was on. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. It was on social relationships in the Commonwealth, or money, measures, and time. Oh, okay, so it was about measurements and a little bit more world building. And I read it. It wasn't as interesting as the translation, the syntax, because it helps explain the syntax a little bit more, and I thought that was super duper interesting. But the ending of each book reminds me of the way Sun Eater ends its books. And there's a certain way in which it talks about there's a certain way in which the main character talks about himself in both these series, and I think it is so deeply interesting, where he's like reflecting and saying, don't worry, if you want to stop reading, if you want to stop listening to my terrible, terrible tale of the things that I've done, because they're all not good, then you can leave, don't worry about it. But if not, I'm going to keep telling you about the terrible, terrible things that I've done, and you're going to suffer with me. But I think that's all I have to say. I can't think of any thematic... I've gotten better at analyzing books over the years. Nah, I got nothing. I got nothing. Maybe I'll find it once I get through the full 4 books. I know there's also Earth of the New Sun. I'm not sure I'm going to read that because I just don't feel like it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Who knows? But anyways, thank you for watching. Tell me if you've read Book of the New Sun. Tell me if you thought it was difficult to read. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I hope you all have a great day. And I just didn't know how to review this, so I hope this was also a good review. Anyways, I hope you all have a great day. See you later. I'm not giving this a star review. Hush. No bad.